Good evening and welcome to the Saratoga Springs City Planning Commission for Thursday, August 24th. I will go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Could I get the audience to please stand? Please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is roll call. Commissioners Reed, Hill, and Barton are all excused this evening as they had other commitments that they had. The next item is public input. Time has been set aside for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues that are not listed as public hearing on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The items on the agenda this evening are business items, so they will not be having any public comment. I'm going to go ahead and close the time for public comment as it doesn't look like there's anyone here for public comment, and we're going to go on to our first business item. That's the Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 610 site plan located 173 West Lake Drive. Dan Schmidt, Westlake Partners, LLC is applicant. And the applicant can come up and join us if he's here.
All right, good evening. So for Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 610, it'll be located on Lake Drive. So here, just south of Crossroads, and it's in the regional commercial zone. And for the site plan, everything seems to check all the boxes. So the parking, there's more than enough parking. We've worked on making sure there's enough connectivity. So added some more pedestrian connectivity on the east side. And then here is the landscape plan, and it meets all of the code requirements pertaining to landscape. And then here are the elevations. Building. And as well as it meets all of the requirements, height and style of lights. It meets all of those requirements as well. And yes, there we go.
Would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation after you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name's Daniel Schmidt with WPI. Our address is 5457 West, 11,000 North, Suite 200, in Highland. And nothing to add, but happy to answer questions.
Okay, I will turn this over to the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Kilgore.
This is a administrative process, so I always ask this question, since it's just basically going down the line, making sure everything's in order. Does the applicant agree to comply with all the conditions in the city planning staff packet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. And there were some does not complies in the required landscaping area, but sounds like they've all been addressed. Is that correct?
Yes, let me take a look at that. I have a copy. Yes, that was that should have been complies. That was a typo.
Oh, okay. All right, terrific.
Yes.
What about, and then, so what page is this? The dimensions for parking stalls and aisle table, I guess, it decides what the required stalls and such are. What expected use for the lot was used in order to determine how many stalls are necessary and what the sizes and all that are?
It would have been a mix between retail and food. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess after all these years, I still don't know how we do this. when we don't know what the use is, but there could be differences in parking stall, this is for the staff, but differences in the number of parking stalls and such, how do we decide which one to, is it a blend of what's expected, or how do we, figure that out?
Yeah, we usually do a blend. Yeah, is that what you did for this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, so what we do is we do an average. So we take, their retail uses, and then there's restaurant uses, and so we take and we average that, which was about 4.5 stalls per, or 4.5 stalls per 1,000 square foot of space. So that's how we determined the number of stalls required. But I believe they did a few more than what was required
Okay.
in this case.
And then just wondering, so over these years, using that methodology, how successful have we been as far as getting the numbers about right, not knowing what the actual use will be, or the tenant will be?
I mean,
Any idea?
Yeah, it's going well. So we did that on the Riverbend commercial and it turned out just great. So with the uses they put in, they're spot on.
Okay, terrific. All right, thank you for that explanation. And then there are also some can complies for outdoor parking lot light shutoff and such. Were those addressed?
Yes. Yes, they were addressed and they were included in the lighting plans detail. There's 2 pages and it's on the second page where it kind of, it's E504 where it mentions shut off.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for that. And then there's again, I'm using the paging in the staff, in the whole packet, so I'm not sure which page this is, but in the secondary water system and dedication of water shares, and then in the piping of irrigation ditches, they're both can complies. And the comment on there, excuse me, and the comment on there is will need to comply with secondary water system and water share. And how is that going? What's the status of that?
Yeah, so
I don't understand what that means, actually.
All right, Jeff, do you want to answer that?
Thomas can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that just means that they will be looking at using the water credits that you have, either that or purchasing the city. It's just, you haven't paid those yet because you haven't gotten your building permit.
Right, yeah, my understanding is those are calculated at the time of building permit.
Okay, so it's a can comply because you're not at that stage yet, is that right? Okay, all right, terrific. Oh, and then what is the plan? You may have already addressed this, but I wonder what your plan was for the rooftop mechanical equipment and screening can complies.
So that's just more so if there will be any material that needs to be screened. But I believe, and one thing that is missed but is mentioned in the conditions is that there is screening on the side of the elevation. I'm not sure which side, but it's included in 611 and 601. It's just forgot, it was missed in 610.
Oh, okay.
So that is a condition, and that's screening where some of those, like utility meters and such, will be located. So that wasn't shown in the elevations. It's shown in the others, but that is discussed in the conditions.
Okay, all right, terrific, thank you. And then I saw that on the, not the elevation, but the plan view, not those, but yeah, that, there's a road that goes around the building, on the right side of the diagram. So you're anticipating that there's going to need for a drive-through or that kind of a road around the building, is that right?
Yes, that's a drive-through.
Okay. So what if the use ends up not being something that requires a drive-through? Are you still going to have a road all around the building?
Typically, if the use doesn't require, then we might landscape that so it has the ability to have a drive-through in the future. However, in today's market, the demand for drive-throughs is more than we can actually support in the buildings. So we're filling up all the drive-throughs tenfold in that sense. So we do, there is a use for this particular drive-through
Okay.
on this building.
Okay.
But that's how we would typically handle it, yeah.
And for those drive-throughs, how does snow removal work? Is it usually wide enough for the snow removal machines to get through, or the vehicles? It is? Okay. Also, sorry, I forgot my glasses. Well, my prescription sunglasses, but I think that's, yeah. The clear sight triangles, shouldn't they be where there's an intersection with the cross-coming traffic, like sight entrances, as opposed to like where it is, I think on the diagrams it identified clear sight triangles at the corner, the upper left and lower right, no, upper right and lower right quarters, it says clear sight triangle, but there's no cross traffic there. So, but there's nothing saying about cross sight triangles where traffic will enter the area. Usually that's where the cross sight triangles are needed, right? It looks like the vegetation's low enough, so there's not a problem, but I mean, as far as the vegetation plan, they're not trees or anything, but it seems, I'm just wondering why there's clear sight triangles identified.
I'm changing the slide. So those are at, so here's the lot right here. So that is a corner right here, like an intersection, and then this over here too. And so those are clear sight triangles that we do want to check, the ones that are shown there. Are you asking why it's not shown on the access point here?
No, so in the upper right and lower right,
Uh-huh.
I see the
Yeah,
clear sight.
these are corners. So this is a street, like an internal street to the project, and then this is here as well. So there is cross traffic at those corners.
Okay, yeah, so you know where the drive-through is?
Uh-huh.
So, okay, so that cross-site triangle that's past the corners of the drive-through, you saying that there is cross-traffic there?
Right. So there is traffic on the roads on the edges of this site.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Any other comments? I'll go ahead and make my comment. One of the things I noticed that I kind of liked with these three projects is that you altered the colors of the wood stuff on the outside. They're not all the same next to buildings next to each other. So I thought that was kind of nice that you did that. So there's a little bit of variety, even though they kind of look like each other, but they are going to be different. Other than that, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 610 site plan located at 173 West Lake Drive with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilden. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Passes. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 2, Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 611, site plan located 127 West Lake Drive, Dan Schmidt, Westlake Partners LLC as applicant.
Yes, so very similar. It's lot 611 is just right next to 610. Very similar for the use. And I believe is located just east. Yes, it's just east of 610. And then here's the setup, and very similar to 610 for the connectivity, and everything seems to meet code there, and as well as just like in 610, there is a lot of parking, very good amount of parking. And here are the elevations. And then the same lighting, everything meets code, and yes.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make any comments, add anything to the presentation?
No, but we're certainly happy to discuss or answer questions.
All right, I'll open this up to the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Kilgore.
Same question. Does the applicant agree to comply with all the conditions of the staff planning planning packet?
Yes.
All right, and then I'm going to go through the same ones. It's probably a typo again this time because the same required landscaping
Yes.
item does not comply, so that was a typo. Okay.
Yes, that was a typo.
Okay, and then same with the parking standards, I guess expecting retail and, or what uses were you expecting?
Yeah, this one, this particular building has a bagel shop and a sports bar.
Oh, okay. Terrific. Okay, and then, again, can complies for business lighting shut off for outdoor parking?
Yes, in the example as well, I believe it's E504 of this, E503. It has all the instructions and information regarding shut-off lighting.
Okay, great. How about secondary water and irrigation ditch piping? Can comply.
Yes. So just kind of the same as before, as they're in the process, but they will be able to comply.
It's too early right now to say, okay. And then trash enclosure was that it does not comply. Has that been addressed as
So
well?
the reason that one is that should have been changed to comply. The location of where the trash, it was in a place where we felt there was, it was obstructing clear side triangle, and it was just not in the best location, so they made those changes, and so I just forgot to put comply, but they do comply on that. They made the correct changes of the location for the dumpster.
Okay. Is the diagram in our staff packet, the one that we received, does it show the change or before the change?
This is after the change.
That one is? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. And then, again, the question about the roof-mounted equipment, but same issue as the one previous, I guess?
Yes, and as you can see in this, in the northeast perspective, you can see that screen, and that is what they're going to have to be able to screen off their utility and such, and that will be also implemented in 610.
Okay, terrific. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Any other questions or comments from the commission? I will entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 611 site plan located at 127 West Lake Drive with the findings, conditions, in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wilden. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
A second from Commissioner Burns. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Great, that passes. All right, item number 3, Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 601, site plan located 1321 North Redwood Road, Dan Schmidt, Westlake Partners LLC as applicant.
This is same thing, different site, essentially. The buildings actually are different. So you have, this is along, the address is along Redwood Road. You have, the access will be off of Lake Drive. It is 1.3 acres. It meets all the parking requirements. Again, there is a drive-through option on this. You can see the stacking, I believe, on this one. So it does provide adequate parking and stackable sites for that as well. And it does meet all of the landscaping requirements. They have put a lot of effort into connectivity as far as for pedestrians, and with a connection to the Wendy's site to the north. There was an existing one, so they have made that connection. And then the elevations, that again, they have changed it up a little bit, like Commissioner Cunningham had stated. There are different aspects of this in the architectural designs. Lighting is exactly the same as the previous two sites. There is the shut-off connections, as Sam had mentioned before. And with that, staff recommends approval.
Okay, would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll turn this over to the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Wilden.
Yeah, Could you explain the flow of traffic? I know it's on Redwood Road, but I was just struggling to try to figure out how people will.
So if you look at, I don't know if you remember Plat F. I don't know if you remember, we're on the commission at the time, Planning Commission at the time, but Plat F has Lake Drive. So you can see Lake Drive starts at Exchange, and it comes down and curves in front of this site, actually, and then it will go out to Redwood Road at a traffic light eventually. So that is the connection and the way that they will access this. There is also Shoreline Drive, and again, the access off of Redwood Road.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilden. Commissioner Kilgore.
Same question. Does the applicant agree to comply with the conditions in the staff packet?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And then I did have one. Oh, I just want to know, just curious, what attendance you're possibly expecting, if you know already.
Yeah, this one's a mix of, I think it's mostly food. I don't actually recall all the tenants on this building. We do have the drive-through spoken for already. That seems to be the first ones going these days. And there may actually be one space vacant, but I think the other three filled. I think, I'm not recalling who the tenants are exactly. But I think there's a grill, there's a dessert. Those are the ones I can remember.
Okay, so sounds like mostly eating establishments.
Mostly.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Any other questions or comments from the commission? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 601 site plan located at 1321 North Redwood Road with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Commissioner Wilden. Any question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That passes. Great,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting that we held back in July 27th. Do we have any corrections or comments on those? I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for July 27th, 2023.
I move to approve the minutes for the Planning Commission meeting on July 27th, 2023.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Second from Commissioner Wilden. Any question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, we'll move on. We have a special guest this evening from our Public Works Department, Jeremy Lappin, correct?
Yeah, not that special. It's all right. They keep me in a hole, so thanks for letting me out of it, my hole.
Well, you don't come here very often. We don't see you very often.
No, yeah, I go to city council meetings and probably Jeff and Dan and Scott and Kyle, so yeah, nice to, some of you are familiar faces, some of you are new, so hi. Interrupt me, this will be informal, just kind of give you guys a brief rundown of what's going on in the city. There's other things that are not in here that I may not have put in here, so if you think of something, let me know and I'll do my best to answer it. As you have driven the city, maybe you've driven the new Pony Express extension from Redwood Road over to the bridge, so that's been desperately needed and good to have. It's now in a tunnel of Phragmites that's 8 feet tall, so it's kind of a fun experience. With the two-lane roundabouts, and I haven't heard too much drama with drivers learning lane roundabout, so I guess that's going fairly well. If you've been down south, this is one that you may not have been aware of. So right above the Lake Mountain Estates subdivision, very south end of the city, basically directly up the hill above the South Marina, two projects. That neighborhood actually was built on top of a drainage, the Losi Canyon drainage, and it had a history of flooding. So one of the projects was a grant we got through FEMA for a debris basin. So this should mitigate future flooding, particularly as we have here when there's fires. Soon after the fires, there's a very high potential of debris flows until the vegetation regrows. So this debris basin is quite large and directly intercepts the low-C drainages and hopefully protects that neighborhood and future areas. Immediately adjacent to it, it just so happened that we also were moving forward in our growth with a new irrigation pond. So we ended up acquiring both properties at the same time and two different contractors, but building them together. And so that Zone 2 pond is just barely put in use. I think we were waiting for a fence. So once the fence went up, we were a little nervous with putting water in it without, fencing to protect from animals or people there. So I believe it may be put in use for the first time in the near future, which is really important as we experience growth and need to meet the needs of our residents for drinking water and irrigation. You may have noticed that the city council allocated the other year some funding to complete some missing trail segments. So they told staff, it's great when developers build trails, but sometimes you have these little gaps that are just like, kids want to walk to school or whatever, and there's just this little piece missing. So we took some of that funding and identified 3 segments. One was this segment from the North Fire Station that gets you over to Pioneer Crossing 73. Yeah.
Could I interrupt
Yeah.
before you move on to this? With the ponds and such, will there be landscaping? Is the city planning to landscape or what?
Not at this time. So generally what happens is, a couple reasons. Sometimes these ponds are above our available pressure zone. And that would be the instance here is our water, this would actually be in Zone 3. So we don't actually have Zone 3 water available. So the pond is for Zone 2, but because you need gravity, you need about 100 vertical feet to get the pressure. This pond needs another pond to irrigate the property, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That other pond does not yet exist. So we would likely landscape this first when we have water pressure to do so, and 2, when there's homes surrounding it and it becomes, a need as far as community. The other thing that, landscaping a site in the middle of native would probably be costly to maintain because you'd be driving up there and unnecessary until you have homes around you.
Right.
It will be landscaped, but probably not until it's surrounded by homes and we have a functioning water system.
Okay, thank you.
We do reseed, yes. Our goal is to stabilize the ground with native revegetation.
Yeah, so we reseed so that runoff doesn't create an issue.
The fire station trail, this is great because it gives two-way connections. All the residents that want to go north and use the great trails on the Mountain View corridor, if you've noticed, Mountain View corridor has these great sidewalks that wrap the entire length. This allows people from Sunrise Meadows and Taos and all those places. But also conversely, particularly with the new bike park, if you've seen the new bike park that we built right there by the North Fire Station. That was so old I didn't even put it in the presentation. So west of Sunrise Meadows, just east and south of the fire station, there is a brand new bike park that we opened up, I think, was early this spring or whatever. So it's got a little pump track that you can do where the BMX with little ramps, and then there's I think 3 or 4 downhill tracks. So you can bike to the top of the hill, and then there's 3 or 4 challenging tracks. So it's a very popular. So what this is great is if you're coming from Harvest Hills, Aspen Hills, this gives you a continuous pathway now to get to that bike park. And then ultimately, that bike park sits along the canal trail. So that canal trail is built through Taos Ridge and sections, so that would be kind of a destination. So this also gets you up to that canal trail, and when those areas are all built out, that canal trail would extend the full length of the city. If you've been in Harvest Hills, they have really nice sections of that. The gravity sewer. So as you may be aware, right now we are dealing with some sewer capacity issues. We're not allowing new plats to record in some of the south sections of the city unless they were to do these capacity improvements. So this is one piece of the puzzle. The developers still need to come through and finish that with a new lift station to finish the capacity. But what it comes down to is the old original sewer line that runs through the golf course through Old SSD is old. It was undersized for, back then they never anticipated we would have the growth we have now. And it needs to be upsized. Well, we realized it would have cost tens of millions of dollars to rip out, and that sewer line actually runs through people's backyards all through Old SSD. So the solution was to bypass all that with a new lift station that will be built somewhere near the golf course clubhouse. This is the gravity line that the lift station will pump into. So we've built the connecting point, and it takes some of the sewage off the lift station, but the developers still have to come build the lift station and pump all that sewage up to this gravity line by Ring Road by the fire station. And that would allow then the sewer capacity to grow. So this was kind of a big deal insofar as it was the last thing the city was doing, because the council bonded, I think, for about $14 million 5 or 6 years ago to help get that done. And they said, great, we've done our part, developers need to, pitch in and do the rest. And that was the lift station, so. The other thing that's really nice about this is we finished the trail with the sewer. So if you've noticed, when they finished constructing the sewer line from Grandview to the fire station to Ring Road, they installed the trail from Ring Road back to Lakeview Terrace. So now if kids are walking to the new middle school, maybe they're walking to Temple, I don't know what they're doing, you now actually have a continuous trail along Redwood Road where you can walk from the Maverick, from the fire station, all the way up to the middle school. So that was nice. Foothill Boulevard, $20 million project, probably the biggest project the city has funded out of its own funds. This is hopefully going to open soon after Labor Day. So it's pretty much done. They're just working on the final punch list, as they say, kind of stuff, the last little repairs and things, and we're excited. And yeah, so hopefully soon after Labor Day, either the week of or the week after, we will be able to open this road. It extends all the way from Pony Express Parkway past Grandview down to Lariat. So that gives a second route. Anyone dealt with congestion on Redwood this is sorely needed. This would allow you to not only get straight to Pony, but obviously you can keep going up Foothill, which actually the council approved renaming Foothill to Mountain View Corridor. So soon our streets department will be removing all the street signs, and so there will be no more Foothill in the city. It will now all be Mountain View Corridor, and you'll be able to go straight through all the way up to Mountain View Corridor. And hopefully that relieves some of the congestion on Redwood. It will probably increase the congestion a little bit on, the road formerly known as Foothill. Then this is the structure of the bridge. Another cool thing about this is we know in the future that Tickville Wash is to be a green corridor, a trail corridor. And so we included a pedestrian facility where this crosses Tickville. It doesn't currently connect east-west anything, but in the future, when those church lands develop, this will allow pedestrians trails that will run parallel to Tickville to have a way to go down and cross under the road so pedestrians don't have to interact with traffic. So it'll improve it'll be a nice facility when that all gets developed in the future. You may have noticed this is under construction now. So if you've driven across the street from Costco, we obtained some funding back to this idea of finishing these little missing segments. This is the segment that connects from Dalmore Meadows to the new commercial development that has those new little Smoked Taco and all those other little new restaurants there. And then there's another little segment north of there, so you can see in the thick red lines there. There's a little segment from there to the existing development there off of Commerce. I think that's like the dental office and stuff right there. So when this is built, again, residents of Dalmore, kids of Dalmore will be able to walk all the way up to basically City Hall here now on the trail. And then there are a few pedestrian crossings, I believe, at Market Street. You could actually walk up to the signal at Market Street, walk across the signal, and get into those, pedestrian access. So this is nice to have too. We just got tired of waiting for developers to finish these segments, and it was grant money, so that's great too. This one, we just actually had our bid opening today. So if you're familiar with the North Shore development, North Shore is building portions of that Pony Express Road through their development. But North Shore goes to Saratoga Road or 2300 West, but it doesn't go all the way to the bridge. There's a piece of Utah County property between the bridge and North Shore. And so this would be an uncompleted portion of this Pony Express. So again, the city acquired funding through our Mountain Land Association of Governments to build this little section. You can see it. It's that little light blue line on the left, or you can see on the right in more detail. So with this completed and with North Shore, D.R. Horton is about finished or finishing the West of Pony. We put a completion date of November 1st. So knock on wood, if nothing goes wrong, November 1st-ish, we will be able to open the realignment of this road. And so now when you go across the bridge, instead of staying down to Pony and curving up to 2200, this will take you actually straight across diagonally northeast, and then you'll head east to Pony to 2300. And at that point, you could turn left to go up to Pioneer, or you could continue going straight. And so we think this will help distribute traffic. So as opposed to funneling 100% of the cars up to 2300 Pioneer, they will have options, right? They might continue easterly down that road to all the other, 1700 South and the other ones and distribute traffic more evenly. Ultimately, the long-term vision is to have this road go all the way to I-15. UDOT's looked at this, they call it the Vineyard Connector. American Fork and Lehigh are looking at this road. So long-term, we're looking at a 5-lane road going all the way from Redwood Road to I-15. So the Pony Express would be a 5-lane road. So we did the 5 lanes from Redwood to the first roundabout, and then you've noticed it tapers down to 2 lanes. So we need more money to go 5 lanes. We'll have to replace the bridge over the river with a bigger bridge, go 5 lanes all the way through North Shore. North Shore has, if you have been there, you've seen they've set aside the corridor. So they've only built the 2 lanes, but you can see there's a big open corridor, so we don't have to tear down homes or anything. But one day when we get the funding, it'll be 5 lanes all the way through our city, and then American Fork and Lehigh will continue that all the way to I-15, and that'll help, again, relieve congestion. If you've been on Pioneer Crossing, it's not so great right now. So this is, again, really needed to supplement the capacity issues that Pioneer Crossing is in. But there's a lot of work to do to get all the way to I-15. TSSD, not our project, but I wanted to just touch base on this briefly. Again, if you've noticed, we've had TSSD, this is the sewer district that services all of the cities in this region for sewage and treatment. They are putting in a new trunk line from 2300 all the way to their treatment plant in I was in American Fork or Orem or whatever on the northeast corner of the lake there. So you can see right now they have the closure in red there on the left. That's the current closure that we've been dealing with. That should extend until, I've heard, the end of September. And then they'll move on to other closures. The main thing being is these rolling closures are going to go on through the end of 2024. There's a big project. Just because this closure is done, there's going to continue to be closures on 145 North or 1900 South or whatever city address. Lehigh, it's 1900 South. That's going to be ongoing, unfortunately, through 2024. So, particularly if you have students at Mountain Sunrise Academy or any of the other schools, it's been frustrating, I'm sure. This is a UDOT project, so we're going to have several UDOT projects here. So Mountain View Corridor, we were just talking about it earlier. The UDOT actually is out to bid right now on a design builder to build Mountain View Corridor all the way up to Porter Rockwell, going basically paralleling it. So you can see in the orange line on the right, that gives you the general alignment, how you're going to get kind of past Camp Williams and tie into Porter Rockwell. So they anticipate, if you look at the schedule, they anticipate trying to open this at the end of next year. So a design build's kind of an interesting concept where they design at 30%. They hire the contractor, and the contractor begins construction and the completing design simultaneously. So that allows them to, in theory, fast track the construction because he can begin, like on a project of this scale, the grading could be 6 or a year of just simply moving earth before they can even begin building structure. So they'll begin construction immediately while they also simultaneously finish designs. The other thing you may notice here is on the aerial on the left, you'll see a little light blue kind of an upside down J there, if you can see that. That's a pedestrian bridge. So we fought with them pretty hard, and they put that in so that this canal, we were talking about those really great canal trails that run through Harvest Hills. This would be allow people on that trail to actually, now this would be the lower trail, but that would allow them to cross the road at a grade separated, safer crossing without having to necessarily go down to Redwood or go around. So
that's that piece of neighborhood you see right there. That's part of Harvest.
Harvest and Wildflower.
Wildflower,
Yes.
yeah.
So Harvest, I think Harvest mostly goes to Providence, and everything west of Providence is Wildflower. Yes. And then obviously Wildflower also continues on the west side of Mountain Corridor. So you can see Dandelion right there in the corner there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So the nice thing about this road is it won't really disturb traffic much because it's a new road. So the only disruptions you'd see is probably when they're making connections to existing roads, but generally most of that construction can occur without disrupting existing traffic. And then that'll be also very nice because instead of having to have all this traffic, again, funnel down to Redwood. So if you want to go to Mountain View Corridor, you have to get on, it dumps you back at Redwood, then you take Redwood all the way up to Porter Rockwell and then get back on the corridor. this will allow you to continuously just stay on that road and reduce congestion. And then we also heard UDOT has funding, so we're in Region 3. Region 2 is going to finish this the next year. So a year after, so 2026 is the discussion now, they'll be able to finish the freeway all the way to I-15. So this project will simply, you'll come over the top of Redwood, and then it'll tie back into the frontage roads. And you can kind of see that on the image to the left there, where it has this new white line over Redwood, but then that project simply brings you back to the frontage road, and then you hit every signal basically to I-15 like you do now. But then the following year, they would be able to finish that project, and it'll be grade separated on the middle lanes all the way to I-15. So if you want to go to I-15, you would then not have to hit a single traffic light. So if you got on,
This is the best thing I've heard
yeah, well, you just gotta wait.
Months.
You just gotta wait 3 more years.
in months.
So, we took the head. So, yeah. So if you get on at the signal here at 73, in theory, you could go all the way to I-15 without hitting a signal once both those projects are done.
So there won't be a connection off Redwood, or will there be a way to get onto off Redwood?
There will be a way to get on, yeah. So I
Okay.
think it'd be a slip ramp.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get on, you take a right at Redwood, and then as you head east, there'd be a slip ramp to get on, kind of like what you experience in, over by
Are you guys on?
Highland, Alpine, or whatever. It'd be like an express lane, so it wouldn't be an interchange, it'd be like a slip lane, where you get on and then you kind of stay in that left lane and then get on, so. That's a lot, I can say, right, that's a lot of earthwork, if you can imagine getting through the area by Camp Williams. So that's a lot of dirt they're gonna have to move. The South Marina, so we get into some of the fun projects here. So if you had been to the South Marina, you may have noticed in the last year, we built a new jetty. So you can see in this aerial image, this new jetty to the north. It's the third jetty on the north side. The intent there was to create an area specifically for non-motorized, so stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, swimming. So we did the jetty. We did quite a bit of dredging, but I will admit we probably have a lot more dredging to do. There's a lot of lake. It's very expensive, but we got enough dredged. At least there's a deep area within the first 100 feet of shore. And we're out to bid right now. So next week's the bid opening. That would be the rest of it. So that'll be all the landscaping for the entire property. It'll be an expansion of the parking lot. It'll be a new restrooms. There'll be a new rental pavilion so that a vendor could in theory rent out paddleboards, kayaks, toys, whatever.
Is the boat launch, is that ramp going to be?
You don't love the boat ramp?
No, I do love it. I love to sit there and watch people burn out their tires trying to get up.
This project, no. So this project does not include anything addressing the boat ramp, but we are well aware that what happens is, particularly in low water, right at the end of that concrete, it gets a big hole, and people don't realize that, and they put their tires off the end of that concrete ramp, and it just disappears. And it's we have backfilled it with rock many times, and it just is an ongoing.
Even just not going off of that, it is a very
it's also steep.
launch.
Yes.
And I mean, I am not allowed to publicly say that my husband has burned out a lot of tires there, so I won't. But
Utah Lake is challenging because the water levels fluctuate. So we've heard this complaint before. It's not as easy as it sounds to rip out and rebuild a flatter ramp, and at the same time get to a depth where you can do it. So
yeah,
straightforward. This project is not addressing that issue.
okay.
But we are aware of that issue. We have backfilled the hole behind the ramp many times. It just comes back immediately because, again, rock just seems to disappear into that lake mud. But I would love to find a solution to that.
Well, I'll just let my husband know you said to buy a new truck. So
Absolutely, yes.
It's a city marina?
yeah.
Yes.
It is, okay. I thought it was
Yes.
state.
So speaking of City Marina, so I don't know if you have any other questions on the South Marina, but this is exciting because this has been an unfinished property forever. So you have a huge grassy area. Again, you have new restrooms, and then there's like 7 or 8 little picnic pavilions, and then there'll be actually a sandy beach. So we're going to install, there'll be a sidewalk right there by the lake shore, and then you'll see, basically it'll be a beach. We don't know how long we don't know how often the sand will have to be replenished. We have designs so that we can bring in vehicles. We expect seasonally you're going to have to bring in more and more sand. just by default is probably going to wash away. But hopefully, it's what you would picture, right? You can put out your towel, you can put out your beach, your umbrella, and we'll have little pavilions. And so we had hoped to have this done this season. Things got complicated with funding and whatever. So now we're looking at opening and having this done by, hopefully by June of next year. The North Marina.
The boardwalk with food shops.
So back to North Shore. So when we approved the North Shore development, the developer gave us 20 acres of this prime property, which used to be actually, I believe, the site of the original 1960 Saratoga Marina, when there was, people would come here and stuff. So it's been it was long since abandoned. But we acquired the property through that development agreement, and we've just spent the last 4 months dredging it. As you can see in the pictures, it was very messy. And we are working now on the design. So you can see in that picture, we have grand visions for this. Potentially, I would say even fancier and nicer than the South Marina. That probably is a $40 million facility. We have secured about $3 million in funding for dredging, and we hope in the near future to at least be able to build the jetty. So you can see this new jetty on left edge there of the colored picture, a parking lot and a boat launch. That alone probably requires about $5 million.
So
Again,
it won't be open to the public for,
in the near future.
yeah, in the near future. We need a lot more funding and a lot more improvements before we open it.
It could be possible in the next 12 or so months, depending on funding. There's a lot of things going on here. So, for instance, the state is looking for a nature center on the lake, and they have about 13 or 15 or something $1 million. And this property just adjacent to here is their prime candidate. So we're waiting on those discussions. If that happens, they may piggyback with us and use our parking lot, our access, our utilities to help get their facility off the ground. If that happens, then this thing could fast track much quicker.
And will the boat launch, will that ramp be manageable?
I hope so. I'm not the boat launch designer, but I will absolutely make sure that they are aware of the existing issues in the current boat launch on this one. So this one actually is more challenging because the north edge of the lake is shallower for a lot longer distance. So not only will we have to dredge the marina and build a boat launch, we'll have to dig a channel probably and dredge a channel 300-400 feet out. Because if you saw last year when the water was very low, that water, that shallow shelf or whatever extends very far out. And so the concern would be that if you take a boat out, we wouldn't want someone to get stuck. We wouldn't take a boat out and then the winds pick up and blow the water south, and all of a sudden you can't get back to your car because the water's too low. So the difficulty with this site is it requires a lot of dredging, and the dredging is very expensive. So just for example, the dredging we did, which was all land-based dredging, so that it was only done from the shoreline, was a little over $2 million and probably was less than half of what needs to actually happen. Future dredging will have to occur in the water with some sort of barge or something like that, which is even more expensive. So, Redwood Road Underpass. This is in design, and currently the goal is to have it open in time, a year from now, so school fall of 24. That is dependent on successful right-of-way acquisition and everything. That's currently being, they're pretty much done with design. They're trying to finalize right-of-way acquisition, and as soon as that's done, they could go out to bid. So this would allow residents of Lake Mountain Estates essentially to walk to the new Harbor Point Elementary without having to cross the road at, Harbor Parkway is not probably a safe place. There's no signal there or anything safe there. I think they're getting bused right now. I can't imagine they have to walk. So we're going to save the school district a lot of money in busing by this project. But they've been very cooperative. They worked with us and they've gotten us property for there. So what's nice about this is the east side of this underpass is at grade. So even though you have to go down on the west side, kind of dug down, it'll be open on the east side, so it'll be open and safer that way and more inviting, so that it's not totally an underground facility. It's simply on the west side where it's built up. But on the east side, it should be right at grade. So if you're standing on, Captain Street, you should be able to see right up the center of that underpass. Signal at Redwood Road and Aspen Hills Boulevard. So this is probably going to be constructed in the next few months. They're just finishing designs on it right now, and I would expect UDOT would be under construction soon. So busy intersection. UDOT is going there, is funding this project. It'll add some dedicated right turn pockets and such like that, but dual left turn lane. So UDOT is also working on this, which is somewhat of a new UDOT project. If you're heading west on Pioneer Crossing, right by Mount View Corridor, and you want to turn left south down the road formerly known as Foothill, right now there's only a single left turn lane and the queue's back up. So what this will do is this will widen Mount View Corridor, or what was known as Foothill there, so that it'll have dual receiving lanes, so that westbound traffic can have dual lanes turning left, and that we can move more cars per signal cycle and reduce people's waiting time. This is a frustrating project if you live in SSD and for staff. This is a project that we got funded 2 or 3 years ago. We actually had a contractor begin the construction, and they walked off the job and left a big. And if you've heard of this, if you know, you know. If not, I guess you're lucky you didn't have to deal with it. We had a contractor just kind of make a mess, try to make a bunch of claims and try to get a bunch more money, and we ended up having to fire them or whatever. Redo the job, go get more funding, and we're back in redesign and hoping that we can do this successfully this time. These are the only 2 segments in SSD that don't have a trail. Now there are portions of that do have a trail, but they're road base and miscellaneous states, but there are trails there. These 2 segments that truly have no trail at all. The south segment's called the Amanda Lane segment. It goes from Eagle Park south to the lift station just south of Amanda Lane. There's no trail there at all currently. And then the green portion is called the Hot Pots portion. It goes basically from the SSD Marina, the private marina, the roundabout there, south to, I don't even know the name. There's a trail corridor where it begins there. You can see at the south end of the. So this project was a single project before the first contractor messed it up. It's now broken up into 2 projects. So UDOT is funding and controlling the green one, and the city is funding and controlling the blue one. Again, both of these we hope to have out for construction this winter, and this time actually successfully complete these projects. They also include shoreline mitigation. They get rid of some of the old canal in some of those sections where a lot of the homeowners there don't love this old canal that collects stagnant water between the trail and the back of their home. So, yeah, I'm not going to jinx it, but second time's the charm, right? So, Saratoga Cemetery. Again, you may have heard of this. This is very conceptual. It's the white square in the picture there. This is in I'd say the western part of the Wildflower development. So you can see Mountain View Corridor there on the right side of the image. And this white square is the property that the city is acquiring. So we've acquired half of it, and the other half is in transition through military C-Cub fund. So the military worked with the developer because they would rather have a cemetery next to their howitzer guns than homes. And so we've worked with a designer on some conceptual layouts for this facility. The city council is anxious to get this up and running because we have a lot of residents who would love to have a local cemetery. But we're kind of stuck waiting for the developer to bring infrastructure in.
Bodies in the backyard.
This is on the west end of the project, therefore there's a lot of infrastructure to get service up there. So as much as the council would like this to have happen today, unfortunately the infrastructure just isn't there to support it quite yet, but hopefully a year, 2 years, I don't know. As soon as the developer has infrastructure, I know the council wants this thing open ASAP, so. Interesting design there, so yeah. Several, I forget how many spaces there are, but several thousand spaces. And so hopefully serves the city for a long time once it's open.
22,000, isn't that what that says right there? 20, is that what that is? Anyway,
22,000,
323.
like lots?
22,000.
Lots.
Yeah.
And you can bury him double deep.
So the current population of Saratoga is 60,000.
That's kind of morbid.
Just for context. Patriot Park Phase 3. So the city acquired the rest of the property about a year and a half ago. So we now own all the property from the newly extended Pony Express extension. We now own all the property south of there to Patriot Park. Right now, we're working with some architects on some city hall designs. This is a current concept plan. It probably will change drastically, but at least it gives you an idea of what could go there. More baseball fields, more pickleball, soccer, amphitheaters, ice skating loops. There's a lot of possibilities with the property, so kind of exciting. So again, not only would we have to finish figuring out what the city hall property looks like, but we'd also have to find funding, right? Because currently we've pretty much tapped through most of our cash funding. So you either have to wait to collect more impact fees or you'd have to bond or something. So just concepts, but still fun to look. We are also master planning our public works site. So I don't know how many of you guys come down to where we work, but it's a big property. You don't realize that the city actually owns quite a bit of property there beyond what's developed. So you can see our current office there is the building with 3 windows near the front. And then our shop is the long building there in the back behind us where most of our departments have their equipment and work on their tools and park their bigger vehicles. So for scale, we're looking at a property that 3 or 4 times the expansion of what we probably would occur over multiple phases. But we want to make sure that as we build it in phases that we have a finished picture so we know that, so that when it all comes together, we're not looking at a patchwork quilt of facilities. We want to have a master plan that we can build in phases and see that we're building towards a finished picture. So that's something the city council helped, give us some funding for this year, and we've got a consulting with that. So working with Sarah and planning on that a little bit, make sure we don't violate any of our planning codes, have the right architecture and the right plantings and things like that. So. And then this future roadway, you can see where it says future roadway on the far left side of this. That is 800 East. So that's the road that will go from Pony all the way to Pioneer Crossing one day on the very west edge of North Shore. And through the Cliff Lake development, if you remember that project. And, more, okay. More grants. So this is another debris basin that we got just awarded a grant for. We got a couple $1 million for this. We're calling this the Fox Hollow Debris Basin because the drainage it sits on isn't technically have a name, but you can see for reference where it's at. It sits just above Fox Hollow, basically, which is why we're calling it the Fox Hollow Debris Basin, above the tank and pond there. So again, a lot of our entire city sits on an alluvial debris flow, particularly everything south of Cedar Valley. So those foothills all have histories of flooding and fires and whatever. So we actually have a series of debris basins planned to mitigate all that. So this happens to be the next one that we actually got funding for. And then I think this is the last slide. So 2 other road projects coming up that we also got funding for, one in 2025 and one in 2026. So in 2025, we have about $10 million to finish widening Saratoga Road to 5 lanes. So D.R. Horton, North Shore, those developments, Pirelli, they did the widening on their portions, but there's still a few undeveloped properties. So this will allow us to make sure we have a consistent 5-lane cross-section, Pony to Pioneer Crossing. It'll fund a signal at Pony and Pioneer Crossing, and it'll fund adding a 3rd lane on 145 North from from Saratoga Road all the way to our project limits by Loch Lomond there. So that'll be, I think, desperately needed as we talked before about funneling traffic towards this direction. This will help provide that capacity. Then 2026, that's about $2 million in funding to widen 400 East, which is also known as Riverside Drive on the south side of Crossroads. So just down the street here, if you go down the street and take a left before the bridge, you'll notice that in our city it's 2 lanes, and then you get into Lehigh in the Cold Springs Ranch, and it's this big 5 lanes. So this will allow us to continue that full 5 lanes all the way down to Crossroads Boulevard. So I think that was it. All right. Sorry, that took probably more time than I anticipated. But.
Thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is commissioner comments.
Sorry, I just had a question about What's the estimated completion date for the lift station?
For the south, there is no estimated completion date. We are working right now to acquire the property, and that's been ongoing for a while. It's not been, the seller doesn't really want to sell it, but I think that we have finally turned a corner and we're close to getting a deal done. But then the developers have to come in and design and build it. So we met with them yesterday, and they basically have told us we have the money, they have the money lined up, they have the designer lined up. So as soon as we can close on the property, they intend to move forward very quickly. So I hate to put a date out there, but I would say it would take at least, even if they could move forward full steam, those facilities, and these days with logistics and the electrical components, I would be surprised if it was less than a year. So I would say at least, best case scenario, I would think at least a year, if not a bit longer, just because.
And this is the lift station that's holding up the construction for the south end, so we're looking at probably another year on that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I also had a question about, are the projects following, to any degree, the master plans prioritization of, projects that was recommended for these kinds of like road projects and things like that? Is kind of following that?
Yeah. So we have impact fee facility plans, right? We collect impact fees from developers and we have those lists. So generally, yeah, we're following those lists. When it comes to roads and storm drain, sometimes those lists are, so if you look at those lists for like drinking water and irrigation, there's only like 10 or 15 projects on the lists, and we're pretty much exactly following those lists. If you go to storm drain and transportation, those lists are like 50 projects long.
Right.
And sometimes it becomes more of an opportunistic thing, whereas if a developer is building in location A, then, piggybacking on that. So usually we follow the lists, but sometimes we don't want to build infrastructure where there's no development and we don't want to predict it. So sometimes we may jump a project because when we make those lists, we're guessing or estimating where development will occur. Right. And if it turns out that development's not occurring where we thought it would occur, it doesn't make sense to build a project where development's not occurring. So we may jump around a little bit so that we are actually following information we have currently to make sure that we're building infrastructure where the development needs it. So we generally follow the list, but we make changes because, again, when we make those lists, the way the city grows, sometimes those lists are outdated 6 or 12 months after you make them. Right. Because you think this developer is about going, this guy's going to develop tomorrow, and then also he goes away, and this new project that we never even considered shows up, and so.
Thank you.
I have one more. So there's a turn-in into Harvest Hills, like it's north of the light.
Fall Harvest Drive?
Yeah, and there's no turn-in lane for that section.
Fall Harvest Drive or one of the other roads?
It's that little,
Of Redwood?
yeah.
Yeah,
Or is it
Hillcrest? Hill?
or is it the half circle one?
Is
Goes
it
on the corner.
north of the light or south of the light?
It's north of the light.
Okay, Fall Harvest.
Fall Harvest recently got restriped. And it does have, so it got restriped as 3 lanes with all new striping. So that it does have a turn-in lane, if that's the one you're referring to.
Is it a smaller street?
It's a small street. There's,
Oh, into Harvest Commercial, I think.
Oh, that's a private road.
Yeah, so I think it's that private road into Harvest Commercial.
You're saying it's not striped? There's no delineation between the two,
so when you're on Redwood Road, there's no like spot to move over off of Redwood Road.
oh, there's
to
no
turn.
gap.
I don't know all of the right words for road.
Right. There's no break in the center lane where it says come in and turn left, right? Is that
No. I'm saying when you're going south on Redwood Road and to turn right onto that street, there's no space to move over and turn right. There's no like.
You have to stop traffic.
You either slow down and stop traffic or you move over into an area that's not designed for it.
Shoulder.
There is a shoulder.
There's a shoulder, but there's no, the striping and and that part, it's not correct. And there's also a huge drain.
Yeah,
This one right here? Or
Nope.
this one up here?
That one up there.
So up here, you're saying there's not a
There's no space to turn in off the shoulder, and there's a huge drain.
I've seen people hit it and the cars bounce.
Okay.
All the
I can,
time.
I can discuss that with UDOT. Yeah, when that was.
That's probably the drain right
Yeah,
there.
that's the drain.
Yeah, so Fall Harvest Drive is a fairly older access, right? That was built
Yeah.
with one of the original,
Yeah, I remember when we didn't have a charge for irrigation.
I'm wondering if it was built today, UDOT would have required what they call a decel lane, but for some reason, because it was
Yeah,
fathered in or whatever, but I can bring that up with UDOT, but yeah, that's an interest, I can see that now that you point that out, I can see that looks concerning.
I call it shady.
Yeah,
So when I'm turning in off of there, I just stay in my lane and slow down, and it pisses people off.
because that bike
Because-
lane is narrow and if you were there, then you're.
If I move over too far, I hit that drainage thing, and
I
my
will-
husband's asked me not to hit things with the car anymore.
Let me send that concern over to UDOT and see what they
Thank
say.
you.
Yeah,
I wish I would have known to bring this up to you a long time ago.
sure. Yeah.
That's all.
Any other comments from the commission? So Sarah, that we have training coming up on the 28th and 29th, if people can go,
Yes.
right? You sent out a link, it was either today or yesterday, about a commission training. And I tried to click on the link, but nothing opened. Could you tell us more?
Well, all I know is, so during, okay, yeah, we have the Utah APA, which is American Planners Association conference coming up, and that is in, is it Logan? Ogden.
Ogden.
Sorry, Ogden. And the commissioners are welcome to attend that. There's 2 days, September 28th and 29th, so it's a Thursday and a Friday. The city would cover the registration cost and the mileage if you attend one or both days. And then there is one session that's specific for planning commissioners, and that would count towards your required training.
Just that one section would count, or the whole?
The whole day doesn't count, there's just that specific one would count.
Is there an online option for it?
No, but there are online options for your training. So yes,
Thank you.
to meet your training.
Do you know what day that training is? Because I can only go on the 28th.
Oh, let me get back to you on
Okay.
that. What, if that was, I think it was the other day, actually. I think it was, but I'll, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
get back to
September
you.
28th and 29th. Fred.
Sarah, I haven't seen the APA, schedule, but, there may be some other sessions that would
Count?
count. I did send you an email just a few
Right.
minutes ago, commissioners, that details some of the topics that can be subjects for your training. And so you could look at that and look at the offerings and see if they would count.
So just, we wanted to offer a reminder about your annual training. We're getting a little bit further along in the year. This is a summary of the annual training that's required. 1 hour of general. So anybody who came to the joint meeting with the planning commission or with the council in February, that was covered.
No, that was the open meetings training.
Oh, so this is.
I did send a link, though, to a YouTube training for that hour
In the email?
in the email.
Okay, so Fred sent all of you an email with this training information. Sorry, I got that mixed up with other trainings. So you do need 1 hour of Land Use Development and Management Act training. And then you need 3 hours of annual training on land use topics. If you attend 12 meetings, which all of you meet that in the calendar year, that counts as 1 hour. So then you would need an additional 2 hours on land use topics. And then these links here, we were talking about, can you do your training online? All of these links will access online training that will count. Friday? Okay, yeah, Friday is
Okay.
the everything a planning commissioner needs to know by LEDMA. is on Friday. And Fred did mention, there usually are some other ones that count? Okay. So if they're under the land use category, they count?
Typically, yeah.
Okay.
There's a list of topics in the email that I sent.
It looked like on the Thursday, there was land use stuff that I was going to try and go to
Okay.
on the 28th.
Yeah, and the email that Sherilyn sent out, so they just barely, I think it was today, sent out the draft meeting, or the draft schedule of all the topics. So I can forward that, and you can take a look at that and see if that's going to be beneficial for you. And if you are interested in attending, just let us know sooner than later so we can get you registered.
Next meeting,
Yes, the
director's report and next meetings.
report, okay. So I wanted to go over just a second, let me get it up over here. So our next meeting is September, September 14th, and we have several items, some code amendments and possibly a site plan on the agenda now, possibly some others, but so September 14th, and then since we met last, we've had 2 council meetings. The Valvoline Oil site plan, wait, is that the right, no, sorry. The Stevenette, no, it is. So on August 1st, sorry, the Valvoline Oil site plan was approved. We have officially changed the name of 800 West to Mountain View Corridor, and then the River's Edge East site plan was approved. And then on August 15th, the Stevenette rezone was approved, and then the Hidden Landing preliminary plat was approved. The code amendments related to plat amendments, those were all approved, so.
Okay, if that's everything, then I'll adjourn this meeting until September 14th.